Scott Morrison, the Prime Minister, the leader of the party, 40 votes to 45. Is that a big enough margin for him to be able to lead, I guess, with some clear air?
Yes, victors always like to say it doesn't matter how much you win by as long as you win. What I find interesting about the vote is that it is not dissimilar to the proportional outcome in the battle between Mr Dutton and Mr Turnbull a couple of days ago, which started this latest round of leadership tension. And in fact, it's not dissimilar to the proportional breakdown in the Liberal Party room some years ago when Mr Turnbull overturned Tony Abbott. So what this tells us is that there are two camps inside the Parliamentary Liberal Party, and they're pretty solid. Only a couple of people seem to have shifted sides between the moderates and the Conservatives. Now, the difficulty we have here is that whilst Mr Morrison clearly was the de facto candidate carrying the flag for the former Prime Minister, Mr Morrison is not necessarily considered to be a moderate to the same extent as Mr Turnbull was. Mr Morrison is quite conservative as well. So I read this as a decision by the Liberal Party room to go with someone from New South Wales, the largest state in Australia, which has the largest number of seats in the federal parliament, and that Mr Morrison will probably appease the Conservatives who wanted to get rid of Mr Turnbull, and it also keeps Mr Dutton away from the leadership because the deputy leadership has gone to Josh Frydenberg, who comes from Melbourne, comes from Victoria. So it's an interesting transition, if you will, from a sort of moderate leadership made up of Turnbull and former Deputy and Foreign Minister Julie Bishop, who of course went out in the first round of counting, and we now have a more conservative leadership, but it's not a Queensland-based ultra-conservative leadership, and I think that what the Liberal Party is hoping is that Mr Morrison and Mr Frydenberg will be a much more palatable option to the electors than Mr Dutton.
Still watching? Perfect. Click here to watch another great video from CNBC International. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching.